That evening was supposed to be a celebration. The setting? Mrs. Whitmore's opulent home, where crystal chandeliers bathed the room in a warm glow and fine china graced the table like an art exhibit. It was meant to be a joyous family dinner, a time to come together and share happiness. Or so I thought. With excitement bubbling inside me, I smoothed my dress, took a deep breath, and prepared to share my news. A promotion! A step up in my marketing career, a position I'd worked tirelessly to earn. I imagined smiles, cheers, and maybe even a toast in my honor. Instead, what I got was something I never could have anticipated. As appetizers were served, I leaned toward Tom, my husband, and whispered, "I have some great news." He nodded, his encouraging smile bolstering my confidence. Turning to the family, I announced proudly, "I've been promoted to Senior Marketing Director." Silence. Deafening, suffocating silence. Mrs. Whitmore's eyes narrowed. Her lips pressed into a thin, unforgiving line. Leaning toward Tom, she hissed, just loud enough for me to hear, "Is this what we raised him for? To be overshadowed by his wife's career?" Her words cut like a dagger, but the worst part was Tom's reaction. The man who had always been my champion suddenly seemed to shrink under his mother's glare. His smile faded. Slowly, he withdrew his hand from mine beneath the table. I tried to salvage the moment, my voice trembling. "It's a great opportunity for us, Tom. The raise is substantial." But Mrs. Whitmore wasn't done. Her voice sliced through the air like ice. "What about starting a family, Sarah? Do you think money can replace the joy of children?" And then Tom joined in. His tone, once warm, turned cold and distant. "Yeah, Sarah. When are you planning to settle down a bit? This career isn't everything." I felt the sting of his words deep in my chest, not just from what he said, but from the betrayal in his voice. "I thought you were proud of me," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. The main course arrived, and while the conversation shifted, the tension remained, simmering beneath the surface like the pot roast on our plates. By the time dessert was served, the weight of unspoken anger was suffocating. Then, Tom abruptly stood, his chair screeching against the floor. "You should know your place, Sarah," he thundered. "You're my wife, not my competitor." The words rang out, echoing in the room. My heart pounded as I rose to face him. "Being your wife doesn't mean I have to give up on my dreams, Tom," I declared, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. "I deserve respect, not this." In a flash, something snapped. His hand shot out, striking me across the face. The sharp crack of the blow reverberated through the dining room. My cheek burned, but the pain was nothing compared to the crushing weight of the moment. Without a word, I turned and walked away, the scrape of my chair against the hardwood floor breaking the silence. My heels echoed against the marble foyer as I grabbed my purse and stepped out into the cold night air. The door clicked shut behind me, a quiet, final punctuation to the end of one chapter and the start of another. As I drove away, the house faded in my rearview mirror, shrinking into the distance. My thoughts raced, but one thing was clear, my marriage was over. I needed to reclaim myself, to find a place where ambition wasn't a sin. I was terrified but also free. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the windows of my small apartment. It felt like the first day of a new life. My phone buzzed with messages of concern and curiosity, but I ignored them, focusing on what I needed to do next. I picked up the phone and made the call. "I need to file for divorce," I told the attorney firmly. "It's urgent." "Understood," they replied. "Can you come in this afternoon to go over the details?" "Yes. I'll be there." Hanging up, I felt a surge of triumph. There was no going back now. At work, I buried myself in tasks, finding solace in routine. My boss, Mr. Daniels, noticed my distraction. "Everything all right, Sarah?" "I'm dealing with personal issues, but I'll manage." "Thank you. If you need time off." "No," I interrupted gently. "I'd rather keep busy." Thanks. That evening, over drinks with my colleague Jenna, I shared my story. For the first time in what felt like forever, I laughed, finding small moments of relief amidst the chaos. When I returned to my apartment, Tom's missed calls lit up my phone screen. I didn't call back. Instead, I sent a text. I filed for divorce. Please respect my space. His reply came instantly, filled with desperation. Can we talk about this? Please, Sarah. I didn't mean. My response was resolute. I need space, Tom. Good night. As I set my phone aside, a mix of emotions swirled within me, sadness, anger, relief. But above all, determination. This was my space, my sanctuary. Here, I could breathe. Here, I could heal. That night, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. For the first time in years, I wasn't just surviving. I was living. And tomorrow, I would be even stronger. My career had taken off like a rocket. I was diving into larger, more impactful marketing campaigns, building connections with influential industry leaders, and even hosting webinars and workshops that showcased my growing expertise. Every step forward felt like validation of my leadership and skills. Then, one Monday morning, a typically hectic start to the week, my phone buzzed. It was Lisa, a respected industry contact. Sarah, she began, her voice carrying a mix of sympathy and professionalism. I heard about your situation. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. I paused, caught off guard. Thanks, Lisa. It's been tough, but I'm managing. She didn't miss a beat. Listen, there's an opening for a conference speaker next month. The topic is resilience and leadership, and I think your journey, both professionally and personally, would truly resonate. What do you think? My heart raced. The offer was unexpected but brimming with potential. I'd be honored, I replied, gratitude spilling into my tone. As my reputation soared, so did the whispers about Tom's behavior. His once respected name became a cautionary tale. At an industry meetup, I overheard a pair of executives murmuring. He's looking for work again, one said, shaking his head. After what he did to Sarah? Who would hire him? The other replied, incredulous. Tom's struggles became increasingly apparent, a stark contrast to my thriving career. One afternoon, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from Tom himself. Can we meet? I need your help. Despite my better judgment, I agreed to a brief coffee meeting. As he sat across from me, his demeanor was a shadow of the man I once knew. Sarah, I'm sorry. I was wrong, he began, his voice barely above a whisper. I've lost so much. I can't find work. It's like every door is closed. I took a deep breath. Tom, I can't rewrite the past. You made choices, and now you're facing their consequences. But you could help me, he pleaded. Talk to people. Tell them I've changed. I shook my head. It's not just my story anymore, Tom. The professional community talks, and they know what happened. Walking out of that cafe, I felt a mix of pity and resolve. Tom was learning a hard lesson, a painful one about respect and accountability. Meanwhile, I channeled my energy back into my work, pouring myself into new projects with a renewed sense of purpose. As I finalized my divorce, it felt like I could finally exhale after years of holding my breath. This wasn't just moving on, it was reclaiming my life. At work, I launched a mentorship program for young women in marketing, inspired by my own journey. During one session, Ava, a bright-eyed intern, asked, Sarah, how do you handle criticism, especially from those who think you don't belong? You listen, you learn, and then you let your work speak for itself, I replied with a smile. Never let someone else's doubt become your reality. But what if it's really tough? She pressed. Then you lean on your network, find mentors, and never be afraid to ask for help. We're stronger together, I emphasized. These moments of mentorship became the highlight of my work. They reminded me how far I'd come and how much further I could go. At a networking dinner one evening, a former colleague approached me. "Sarah, your story is so inspiring," Derek said. "Have you ever thought about writing a book?" The idea intrigued me. By the end of the evening, I had exchanged contact information with a publisher. Every interaction seemed to open new doors. Each speaking engagement, workshop, and campaign felt like another brick in the foundation of my rebuilt life. At the same time, Tom's attempts to reach out persisted. Messages. Calls. Pleas for another chance. But I stayed firm, knowing that keeping my distance was necessary for my well-being. Months passed, and the echoes of my past with Tom faded into the background of my vibrant, fulfilling life. One day, a mutual friend mentioned him again. "Sarah, he's struggling," Melissa said cautiously. "He regrets everything." I sipped my coffee and replied evenly, "People often regret their actions when they feel the consequences." As she pressed on, I made my position clear: that chapter of my life is closed. I've moved on. And I had. My professional achievements continued to grow, and my personal fulfillment deepened. Reflecting on it all one evening, I realized I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. Tom's regrets weren't my burden to carry. My triumph wasn't in his downfall, but in my decision to forge a life of purpose and integrity. What do you think? Was Sarah right to close the door on Tom entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspiring tales.